When Jim Leiker asked me to serve on the advisory board for the Kansas Studies Institute, he asked if any of us had suggestions for guest speakers, and so I suggested Stan Hurd. The plans were arranged for Stan to come and to speak at our museum here on campus. We approached the director of the museum, Bruce Hartman, about the possibility of doing a temporary work on campus, and everything was approved. And as we started talking more with Stan about the project, it became something that our interest was really growing, and we thought, wow, wouldn't it really be something to have a permanent work on our campus? Soon enough, we were working with Stan, looking at preliminary sketches, talking to the horticulture department, and the work is now becoming a reality.
Stan Hurd is a third-generation native Kansan. His people have roots in southwest Kansas, having worked the land there for several decades. And I think his art really is the perfect marriage between nature and art.
I spent my youth, wandering down Bluff Creek where Satanta, I learned later, actually rode on horseback, the Kiowa chief. And then the large family. I mean, growing up with brothers and sisters, and you're feeding, feeding the pigs and riding the horses, and that kind of informed my art in many ways.
His work with crop art, his paintings, his sculptures have appeared in a variety of diverse places, but especially here in the state of Kansas. And I think we're very honored to have some of Stan's work here on campus. Johnson County Community College has the illusion of being a very urban, suburban type of place out here on the periphery of the Kansas City metro area where everything is covered in concrete. And yet I think this art will remind us that beneath all of that concrete there is the land, there's the prairie that was worked here by American Indians for thousands of years before European settlement.
I was the artist in the family, for one thing, and so I just identified from a very young age with the artist. I drew from when I was very young. I drew animated drawings of the Civil War because I was into history, and especially Native Americans. I just had this fascination because when we would go down to Bluff Creek, 600 yards from the house I grew up in, we could find arrowheads, and we found a cavalry stake in a clearing down there, and I would hear my dad talk about the fact that we had Indian blood from way back. I've always been fascinated by Native Americans and their designs, and I've seen the buffalo drawings on the hides, to history books, to museums that I've gone to. So all of these images stick in my brain.
The piece itself will be a combination of lots of different materials. First of all, native Kansas art, native Kansas rock, I mean. That rock was created millions of years ago when Kansas itself was covered by a prehistoric ocean. It will also involve native plants, native grasses. We're really seeing it as a living piece of art, something that's going to change its appearance with the seasons and as local needs of the college dictate.
I'm Lekha Sreetha. I'm the chair and associate professor in horticultural sciences. And I'm delighted that horticultural sciences students are deeply involved in implementation of this project. And as for site selection, based on my conversations with Stan, I had an idea as to what he would want. I gave him the choice of 2 sites, and both of them were very close to the horticultural science building. Stan chose the site behind the barn because there was this slightly undulating topography, and he really liked that. When it comes to plant selection, that's where my students will be involved. And my students will do the planting and maintenance as well. And from next year, we will choose different color combinations, and we will have a mix of annuals and perennials. And of course, a lot of them will be natives to have a different color palette every year. So that's the plan, at least. The plants came from the collection of the Horticultural Sciences Students Association. So Stan chose 3 groups of plants. One was the variegated oregano, and then he chose the sage, and he also chose lavender, of course, for his for the 3 beds he had prepared already. So it's going to be a standscape with plenty of colors and very inviting for the public to come by.
I'm Stu Schaefer. I'm the chair of the Sustainable Agriculture Program here at JCCC. And I've really enjoyed working with Stan Hurd on the Kansa project. We've built this collaboration and have developed an ongoing committee to maintain the project over the coming years when Stan is finished with his part. And we've decided to have a theme each year to guide the plantings, the annual plantings that will go into the piece. So one year the sustainability and sustainable ag folks will do an indigenous plants kind of design. So we're real excited about that. We're committed to continuing to work on the project as the years go forward. And I think it's just a beautiful addition to the campus as well.
We want you to do a piece with Eugene Friesen down in southwest Kansas. And I go down and I see this petroglyph design of what looks like a figure with a spear point. Very, very simply drawn, but he had sketched it off of a drawing. So I took that design and created a permanent image of Prairie Man. And when I had the opportunity to go to JCCC, all of those things were floating in my head, and I simply went back to my book one day and I thought, it seems like there was another design in there that I liked. And I went through and I saw that and I was like, wow, that is incredible. What is that? I liked it so much that I did a drawing. It's really my favorite drawing. The first one I did, quite frankly, my favorite. It was very simple. I thought fairly elegant, and it just, sometimes these things kind of come to you when you sit in front of the sketch. And then I came up with a number of other drawings, and then in a process with JCCC, we came around to picking this design, which I was very happy with because it was my favorite. And I think I'll probably work on it for quite a while and keep pushing it in directions that make sense. And I do get input from folks that come in too, so it is a collaborative process still. And my art, quite frankly, at its best, I believe, is again a collaborative situation. And to be on a campus with the multiple disciplines and many disciplines that connect with an earthwork, from horticulture to landscape architecture to art to sculpture to math. I mean, you just put it all in there. It really connects so much to Kansas studies and American history studies and Native American studies.
What I've learned really from this whole process is how to see art in a different way, that it's not necessarily something that's confined to the canvas. It's not necessarily something that you see within the confines of a museum. You see it in outdoor venues all the time. And also that this is a piece of art that's going to constantly be recreated. Its appearance will change with the seasons and on a near annual basis. And it will really become the property of Johnson County Community College students, staff, faculty for, I think, generations to come. It's a major investment of the college in something that will be very permanent. And I think ultimately it will remind our students, staff, and faculty that JCCC has this connection to the state and to the land that is unforgettable and permanent.